Good morning, and what a beautiful morning it is. I am here in the beautiful Buttermere in the English Lake District to discuss an increasingly popular outdoor hobby, and that is the hobby of peak bagging. It's quite simple. There's lists of different peaks that are grouped together for some reason, and you try and tick off every peak on that list. And in the UK, there are two lists which are the most popular. The first one are the Munros in Scotland. That list has been around for a very long time. And then somewhat more recently are the Wainwrights right here in the Lake District. And I've done what you should never do. I've asked the opinion of people online. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the 5 most popular reasons why the Wainwrights are better than the Munros. The first 4 reasons are somewhat subjective, but I think the 5th one definitely has legitimacy, and we'll spend a lot more time on that one. But also 5, depending on your viewpoint, serious issues with the Wainwrights. And what could be a more appropriate way than to talk about these reasons than hike one of the most beautiful routes in the Lake District. Right, let's just admit something at the start. Comparing the Wainwrights and the Munros is a little bit like comparing apples and oranges. They're very different, but the fact is some people could do with a little bit of extra vitamin C, and some people want to keep the doctor away, so I still think they're worth comparing. Okay, first of all, let's define what we're actually talking about here. The Munros. The Munros are a list of 282 mountains in Scotland that are over 3,000 feet. That's 914 meters. And this list was put together by Sir Hugh Munro, and he produced his first list in 1891. The Wainwrights, on the other hand, are quite different. It's a list of 214 peaks, or fells, in the English Lake District. And that was put together in a list by Alfred Wainwright, a writer and illustrator who just wanted to create a collection of his favourite peaks. And his list was completed in 1966. And today on this hike, I'm going to be visiting Wainwright's personal favourite peak and also his final resting place. The route I'm doing today comes from this book, Peak Bagging the Wainwrights, and it is number 44, if I can find it. This book is designed to simplify the process of bagging the Wainwrights because there's a lot of them, 214, so it breaks it down into 45 different routes. And here is today, this is the high style route, and I think this is going to be the ultimate Wainwright route because no mountain range in Lakeland is more dramatically impressive. So as far as Wainwright was concerned, up there is the most dramatic view in the Lake Districts. By default, this route just takes in Red Pike, High Stile and High Crag, but it's not too far from Haystacks, Wainwright's favourite peak, so I'm going to add that on at the end. The book does come with maps of all the routes, which are great for planning, but I don't recommend using them out on the trail. The great thing is, though, that there is a link in the book where you can go and download GPX files for every single one of these routes. You can then take that GPX file and load it into your GPS device or onto your favourite mapping application. Splish, splash, splish, splash. Ooh. Should we run through this? Yeah, we should definitely run through this. Well, look at these ancient holly trees. Look at this one. It's got bark missing, round about a third of it. There's a massive dead branch there. That bit's all dead. That's dead, and yet it's still clinging on to life. Keep going, little tree. What do you think? Sheepfold or house? Pretty humble beginnings to grow up in somewhere like that. And speaking of humble beginnings, we probably should actually do a quick compare. Is that ice? That is ice. It's below 0 around here. I wondered why it was so cold. Wainwright and Munro, because they're very, very different lives. Alfred Wainwright was a working class Lancashire lad born into a quite poor family, made much worse by the fact his dad was an alcoholic and essentially drank all the family's money. Wainwright had to leave school at 13 and start working to support his mum, support his family, and he worked his socks off his entire life to get to somewhere to actually make a success for himself. Sir Hugh Thomas Munro, 4th Baronet, on the other hand, grew up on the family's estate in Angus, lived a life of, well, privilege, let's be honest, and probably had a lot more time on his hands to go out hiking about in the hills. The ironic thing though is that despite probably having a lot more time to be out and about, Munro never actually completed his own list. Someone described Wainwright as a working class hero and Munro as an entitled upper class icon. Now there may be some truth in that, but I personally don't think it's fair to judge a man by the circumstances into which he came into the world and had absolutely no control over. But you might feel differently, so feel free to discuss that one in the comments. Apparently the tallest waterfall in the Lake District, but it's very, very skinny. Okay, and this is where this hike is going to start getting a little bit steeper. This next bit, it's a pretty steady 500-meter climb to the top of our first Wainwright Red Pike. And when I get to the top of Red Pike, that's when I'll start going through the 5 reasons that the Wainwrights are better than the Munros. These are my new carbon fibre poles made by Harrier, and they're actually named after one of the Wainwrights, Helvellyn. Tricky bit here, this has got to be at least a grade 0.5 scramble. Actually, I don't think it counts as a scramble unless you need to use your hands. A little bit of a narrow trail here and a steep drop down to my right, but there's loads of trees to break your fall on the way down. There's been a wheelie turned into Elmer Fudd there. Where's the wabbit? There's been a wheelie odd hike so far because I've been hiking in the shadow of the mountain, and because it's January, the sun is really, really low. So it has felt that I've been hiking in the evening, even though it's just now midday. It's so weird. This would be an absolutely stunning view right now if it wasn't for the fact I'm being blinded by the sun. I'm starting to wonder if the low winter sun is the reason that it's recommended to do this route in the opposite direction to what I'm doing it in. Well, this counts as an actual scramble. I now gotta climb back down and get my camera. Oh, come on, look at this. Look at this. Do you know what this is? That's a banana skin. Left out here, 2 years to decompose. Stop throwing banana skins at the Wainwrights! Take my hand and listen. Maybe one day you'll cross paths and you both got new perfumes. And the life you used to live left within that old apartment. Maybe nothing's said and done, and your chest is set on fire. But I promise you, there's nothing but a cold hearted liar. Ooh. summit of Red Pike. And look at that view. And this is the first reason why you might want to consider the Wainwrights over the Munros that I'm going to talk about. It's a different type of beauty. They're more rolling, they're less rugged and angry and dangerous looking than the Munros. If the Wainwrights are Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's, the Munros are Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. Right, I'm going to stop for 5 minutes, stick another layer on, and have a sandwich. Reason number 2 is that there's a significantly lower chance in the Wainwrights of hearing bagpipes. Now personally, I quite like bagpipes. Some people don't. Some people absolutely hate the tartan music bags, but I'm not quite sure if that's a legitimate reason or not, but it was mentioned more than once. This isn't really lunch because I plan on having a proper lunch later on, so this is more like, this is second breakfast. I've got a chicken and sausage sandwich. It's incredibly dry.
And you both got new perfumes, and the life you used to live is left within that old. Maybe not the same.
Look at that. So I'm eating my sandwich on the hoof because I got a little confession to make. I actually started this hike twice. I was about a mile into it when I realized I forgot to bring the peak bagging book with me. So I had to go all the way back to the van, pick up the book, and then come all the way and start again. So I lost about half an hour. I'm trying to make up the time by not stopping to eat. But look at this. Sorry, my mouth's full of food. Look at this. I wasn't actually expecting to find snow up here, but I think a little sprinkling of white adds to it. Let's see if I can make friends with this crow over here. You have a bit of sandwich? Oh, there's 2 of them now. That's twice today I've shared my food with a bird. There's a little robin came and visited me in the van when I was getting ready to head out. If you had a plastic spud bag, that would be one of the fastest ways down this mountain. Whether or not you'd actually survive is another thing. Here's something interesting about the Wainwrights that a lot of people don't realise. The point of the Wainwright is not always the highest point of the peak or the fell. The point that Wainwright picked was the place that, in his opinion, was the best view. I've descended actually quite a bit from the highest point in high style to get to, you see where that final little glimmer of light is? Because that is the point at which Wainwright thought you got the best view from up here. So I'll flip the camera around and we can all witness it at the same time. Now that's a view. Oh wow. Look at that. Number 3 is that you're very unlikely to encounter midges. Midges are the bane of any hiker or camper's existence. Ah, my eyes! Now, if it's a windy day, there's not gonna be a midgie in sight. But if you get a day on a summit and it's totally calm, you're gonna get eaten alive. Number 4, the weather tends to be better in the Lake District. It's a few degrees warmer because it's hundreds of miles south. Right, now I've got to get from here all the way over to there next. That's High Crag, and that's going to be my 3rd Wainwright of the day. And when we get there, I'm going to tell you the 5th and final reason the Wainwrights are better than the Munros. And this is the one that I think will apply to most people. That's High Crag. Number 3 today. Woo. Look at that for a view. I'm gonna keep moving. I'm tight for time. I've now only got 60 minutes of daylight left. And if I want to get the Haystacks, it's way over there. There's a chance I'm not gonna make it, but I'm hopeful. But let's talk about that 5th final and what I think is the most legitimate and reason that's going to apply to most people why the Wainwrights are better than the Munros. And this includes lots of aspects to it, but it can basically be summed up in one word: accessibility. And that includes all kinds of things. It includes just getting to the mountains in the first place. The furthest away Wainwright from Manchester is 130 miles, so 2.5 hour drive. The furthest away Munro is 450 miles, so an 8.5 hour drive. The Munros are spread all over Scotland. This is quite a fun descent here. Whereas the Wainwrights are all within the 912 square miles of the Lake District. They're all close together. It's much easier to do lots of them in one day. Most of the Wainwrights you can park pretty near to where you're going to start climbing. That's not true with the Munros. There's some of them require maybe 15 miles of hiking before you can actually get to the point where you can start climbing the mountain. And then we've got the actual technical requirements of the mountains themselves, and this is actually a really good example because this here, what I'm on now, is probably about as technical as you would ever have to get while bagging the Wainwrights. They've all got pretty well defined trails, you've maybe noticed that, but it's not like some of the Munros where you're pretty much out over open land and your navigation skills has to be very, very good. But also some of the Munros you would have to do proper mountaineering, proper climbing with ropes, helmet, climbing gear. There's also the height difference. The Munros are all 900 meters plus, whereas the Wainwrights start around 300 meters. The record for completing the Wainwrights, 5.5 days. The record for the Munros is 31.5 days. So those are the 5 reasons why the Wainwrights might be the best choice for you. But there are 5 serious downsides to the Wainwrights, and I'm going to talk about those once I get down here because I don't want to slip and fall on my head. Whew. A little bit of trail running. Look at that view. This is Haystacks, the personal favourite peak of Alfred Wainwright, and if I'm honest, it's kind of hard to see why. It doesn't have a view that's any better than any other we've seen today. The peak itself, it's kind of ugly, it's rocky, it's lumpy, and it's coarse. It's kind of just a little bit grumpy looking. But maybe that's what drew Wainwright to it. It was a little bit of an outlier, a little bit of an oddity. Much like himself in many ways, he often felt left out when he was younger, when he was a child. He was interested in poetry and writing, and his friends weren't. He had ginger hair, which he got mocked for, and he got called carrot. So maybe Haystacks felt a little bit like his odd outsider friends. Just behind the peak of Haystacks is a small lake or tarn called Inanimate Tarn, and Alfred Wainwright liked Haystacks so much that when he died his ashes were scattered in Inanimate Tarn. That is his final resting place. And I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is I've been able to actually show you Haystacks and show you Inanimate Tarn. The bad news is that's it over there. And we're not going to get to visit it in person today because it's going to be dark in half an hour. So by the time I get up there, there'll be nothing to see. But hopefully that still let you see what it was like. And I've got a really great quote that someone submitted in the Facebook group where I was asking the questions about the Wainwrights. I'm going to put that at the end, but first of all, let's discuss downsides of the Wainwrights. They do sort of lack that real wild mountain experience that you get with the Munros in Scotland. The Munros are just less tame, there's less human impact. If you actually like snow and ice, you've got a much lower chance of getting it in the Wainwrights in the Lake District, just because it's so much further south and the peaks are so much lower. For the wild campers among you, there is no legal right to wild camp in England, and that includes the Lake District. It's kind of unofficially, semi-officially tolerated, but only above the highest stone wall. So that's usually going to be, you know, fairly high up. If the weather isn't particularly good, you might not be able to go down and find somewhere a little bit more sheltered to camp. Parking is really expensive in the Lake District. It's cost me nearly £9 to park here for the full day. Whereas in Scotland, a lot of places you're gonna park for free. And also, getting parked here in the summer can be incredibly difficult. I've stopped coming to the Lake District in the summer because it's just a bit unpleasant. It's incredibly congested, and if you don't like large crowds of people, well, if you come here in the middle of summer, you're also more likely to encounter annoying people or idiots. Or even worse, you're more likely to bump into annoying YouTubers up here making videos. The best time to come here is probably, well, January. There's nobody here today. And I'm going to finish this video with a quote. And it's a quote that a guy called David Herdman, no idea who he is, he was a random person on Facebook that left this quote. And this, I think, brilliantly sums up the differences between the Munros and the Wainwrights. And David said, "I've done both. The Munros are War and Peace, a list of chapters to be enjoyed and endured. The Wainwrights are a collection of beautifully illustrated books written by a genius. We take the pleasure of recreating his memories."